All right, hey, welcome back to Car Talks, where I rant, ramble, rave, and word vomit my thoughts on training, life, and fitness. And today, talking about accommodating resistance. What is it, and what are the kind of means of doing so? So basically, when we look at accommodating resistance, a lot of people, that's the fancy term for banded and chained movements, right? So you see squats with chains on the end of a bar, or bench presses, deadlifts. Same thing goes for bands. You see bands on the end of the bar. And what is it that it's doing? Because a lot of times it's, you can look at bands and chains and say, all right, well, they're doing the same thing. And essentially the whole concept behind it is concept of compensatory acceleration. So you have to produce more force towards the top of the movement, because as you pull more chain links off the ground, or as you stretch a band out farther throughout a movement, the resistance becomes greater. So every chain link you pull up off the floor is the bar becomes heavier, the movement becomes more loaded. So what you see is that at the bottom of a movement there's a little bit less load, so you can drive out, and then in those more explosive and more powerful ranges, then you start to get a little bit more resistance. Now, the difference between bands and chains, when we look at chains, they don't pull you down in a movement, so there's less eccentric load. So if I start doing squats, and one of the big things for me is just the driving up factor, I'm gonna choose chains over bands. Now, being able to stabilize and being able to slow the descent of a movement, I'd rather choose bands there, right? Because a band, because of the elasticity of it, will pull you down into a movement. So it'll pull your bench down. It'll pull the bar down when you try to deadlift. So there's an eccentric portion that's available when we use bands compared to chains. So those are just two of the main types. And you can get into overloading eccentrics with weight releasers and stuff like that. But that's a different topic for a different time. But in terms of you see these banded movements, or you see movements with chains on them, that's really kind of the whole goal, is be able to create more force at the top of a movement. And if you're seeing it with bands, there's the added benefit of doing and controlling a little bit more weight eccentrically. So just kind of a breakdown on those two things, because you see them a lot, and being able to understand what it is that they do and how they're used. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of help. And until next time, we'll see you in the passenger seat.